They told him, "Move to the back. This seat isn't for you." 10 minutes later, the same crew was being escorted out in front of every passenger. Marcus Brown was used to traveling often. But this evening's flight from New York to Los Angeles felt different. He had just closed a major deal, and tomorrow's meeting could open even bigger doors for his company. Dressed in a crisp navy suit with polished shoes, Marcus walked confidently through the airport terminal, his laptop bag hanging neatly on his shoulder. As he boarded the plane, the warm cabin lights and faint hum of the air conditioning welcomed him. He spotted his seat, 1A, right by the window in the first row forring, extra legroom and quiet, perfect for getting work done during the long flight. Placing his bag in the overhead compartment, he slid into the wide leather seat and adjusted his watch. He had worked hard for moments like this, where comfort was not a luxury but a well-earned reward. Pulling out his laptop, Marcus began scrolling through his presentation slides, mentally rehearsing key points for tomorrow's pitch. Around him, passengers were still settling in, overhead bins clicking shut, and the occasional laughter from people greeting each other. A polite flight attendant passed by, offering a brief smile, and Marcus nodded back before returning to his work. Through the window, the runway lights sparkled against the darkening sky, and the distant roar of other planes taking off created a rhythm in the background. Everything seemed calm, professional, and exactly as it should be. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling ready for the journey ahead. Little did he know, in just a few minutes, this ordinary business flight would turn into an unforgettable test of dignity, self-control, and the power of standing up for what's right. One that would have the entire internet talking before the plane even reached its destination. Marcus was deep into reviewing his slides when a shadow fell over his laptop screen. Looking up, he saw a flight attendant standing stiffly beside his seat, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Her smile was forced, her voice polite but clipped. "Sir, I'm going to need you to move to a different seat," she said. Confused, Marcus frowned slightly and glanced at his boarding pass. "I'm sorry, but this is my assigned seat," he replied, his tone calm. She leaned in a little closer, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "We have a VIP guest boarding, and they'll need this spot. If you could cooperate, we'd appreciate it." Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. "I paid for this seat in full," he said firmly, tapping his ticket for emphasis. The attendant's expression hardened. "Sir, if you don't move, we will have no choice but to remove you from this flight." The words hung in the air like a heavy cloud, drawing the attention of nearby passengers. A man across the aisle looked up from his phone, eyebrows raised. A young woman in the row behind Marcus shifted uncomfortably. The hum of boarding slowed as whispers began to spread. Marcus felt a rush of heat in his chest, not just from the threat, but from the casual way it was delivered, as if his presence here was negotiable. Taking a measured breath, he kept his voice steady. "I'm not moving without a valid reason." But before the conversation could continue, the flight attendant's eyes lit up with a sudden, warm smile directed not at Marcus, but at someone entering the cabin behind her. And at that moment, Marcus realized exactly where this was going. Marcus turned slightly in his seat to see a tall white man in expensive-looking sunglasses and a tailored blazer step into the cabin. The man carried no luggage, only a sleek leather briefcase, and walked with the casual confidence of someone who expected the world to make room for him. The flight attendant's entire demeanor shifted, her stiff posture softened. Her smile became bright and genuine. "Right this way, sir," she said warmly, gesturing toward Marcus's seat as though it were already available. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He glanced between the attendant and the man, realization dawning with each second. "Are you removing me for him?" he asked, his voice calm but edged with disbelief. The attendant avoided eye contact. "Sir, please gather your belongings and move to another seat." A murmur rippled through the nearby passengers, and a few discreetly angled their phones to record. Marcus exhaled slowly, fighting the sharp sting of humiliation rising in his chest. Without a scene, he stood, took his bag from the overhead bin, and stepped aside. The other man slid into 1A without so much as a glance in Marcus's direction, already pulling out his phone as if nothing unusual had happened. Marcus made his way toward the back, finding an empty middle seat between two strangers. The space felt smaller, the air warmer, but Marcus kept his expression neutral as he opened his laptop again. His hands, however, trembled slightly on the keyboard. He told himself to focus on the work ahead, but the words blurred on the screen. All around him, the low hum of whispers continued, a quiet current of disbelief and disapproval running through the cabin. Marcus knew this wasn't over, but he had no idea just how quickly everything was about to change. The plane doors closed, and the cabin lights dimmed to a warm glow as the safety announcements began. Marcus sat silently in his cramped middle seat, his shoulders brushing the passengers on either side. He stared straight ahead, trying to push down the mixture of anger and humiliation swirling inside him. 10 minutes passed. The engines roared. But instead of moving, the plane remained still. Passengers shifted in their seats, glancing around curiously. Then a low but firm voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to a personnel issue, we will be experiencing a short delay." Marcus caught the flight attendant who had removed him walking briskly toward the front, her once confident steps now faltering. Two other crew members were whispering near the galley, their eyes darting toward 1A. Within moments, the captain himself appeared, his jaw tight, speaking to the suited passenger who had taken Marcus's seat. The conversation was quiet, but the body language told the story. Sharp gestures, crossed arms, a growing tension in the air. Then, in a move that stunned the entire cabin, the captain motioned for the suited man to stand. A murmur of confusion swept through the rows as the man reluctantly rose, clearly protesting. Moments later, he was escorted off the plane along with the flight attendant who had ordered Marcus to move. The cabin fell into an almost eerie silence. The captain walked directly toward the back, stopping at Marcus's row. "Sir," he said, his tone respectful, "please come with me." Marcus rose slowly, feeling dozens of eyes on him as he followed the captain to the front. When he slid back into 1A, the leather felt cooler, the space somehow wider. He didn't know the full story yet, but he knew the power had just shifted. As Marcus settled back into 1A, the cabin buzzed with a mix of curiosity and admiration. A few passengers gave him small nods of approval, while others whispered to each other, phones still discreetly recording. The captain leaned slightly toward him and spoke in a low voice. "I apologize for what happened earlier, sir. That crew member's behavior was unacceptable, and our company will not tolerate it." Marcus simply nodded, his calm composure masking the storm of emotions inside. 10 minutes later, the plane finally began to taxi down the runway. The suited man who had replaced Marcus and the attendant who had sided with him were nowhere in sight. The quiet satisfaction of justice hung in the air, but Marcus stayed focused, opening his laptop again not out of necessity, but to remind himself that he belonged here, that no one could strip away his dignity. 2 hours into the flight, a different attendant approached, offering him a warm meal and quietly adding compliments of the captain. The gesture was small, but meaningful. When the plane touched down in Los Angeles, Marcus stood, retrieving his bag with unhurried grace. As he walked toward the exit, several passengers stopped him not to gossip, but to thank him for standing his ground. Outside, the cool night air wrapped around him as his phone buzzed with notifications. Videos from the flight had already gone viral, spreading across social media with captions like, "Black CEO removed for white passenger, justice served mid-flight." Marcus allowed himself a small, knowing smile. He had boarded the plane as just another traveler, but he was leaving as a symbol proof that sometimes dignity wins. And as he stepped into the waiting car, he didn't just feel victorious. He felt unshakably free. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and share to spread the message. Subscribe to Blax Stories for more powerful tales that keep you hooked till the very end.